Hello, everyone. Welcome to our monthly InfoSec Seminar organized by the Information System Security and Assurance Management Department in Mahalshin School of Management. Before we start, I have quick announcements. Number one, congratulations to Dr. Shona Gili, who published a new book titled The Auditor's Guide to Blockchain Technology. And the Faculty of Management will be celebrating the book with a book launch. So please wait for more information. And another thing, we have an event for lighting up Ada Boulevard, and everyone is invited, and I will share the links with you. Now I'll pass it over to Dr. Ishak Katyal, our Associate Vice President of Innovation, who wants to share with you some interesting news about Machine Learning and Innovation Symposium, co-hosted by our university. So please go ahead, Dr. Ishak.
Thank you, Eslam, and hello, everyone. I won't take much time. I'll quickly share a link about a Machine Learning and Innovation Symposium. But before I do that, a little bit background on what this Innovation Symposium is about and the importance of it. So back in 2019, Concordia became a part of a consortium of post-secondaries that want to advance artificial intelligence and machine learning in our province. The four post-secondaries are Concordia University of Edmonton, Bow Valley College, Athabasca University, and Northwest College. As part of this collaboration, this collaboration was funded by Prairies Canada and also by all the four institutions that provided matching funding for this initiative. As part of this initiative, there have been a lot of courses, programming, and resources in terms of infrastructure that have been developed to equip our academics, our students to do research and innovation-related projects in machine learning. And the first phase of funding is coming to an end in March 2023. So in order to celebrate all the activities, all the achievements that we've been able to do as part of AIPP, so Artificial Intelligence Pathways Project collaboration, we are doing an AIPP showcase on November 30th. The event will have a keynote session, several industry-led sessions, to provide an opportunity for our students to connect with industry and the AI community in general. As part of this event, Concordia is hosting a machine learning and innovation plus symposium where our students, staff, and faculty can present their machine learning projects, connect with industry, get feedback from the industry on their projects, and definitely win some cash prizes that can be accounted towards their tuition fee. So overall, a very good event. A 5-minute presentation can get you the exposure to industry and also on the side help you win some cool prizes. Most importantly, this participation will enhance your CV because it is not a research conference, but it is a conference, an oral presentation where you can add it to your CV and definitely have some credentials to show to your potential employers. So I will put the link on the in the chat here so that you guys, and I'll encourage you guys to register for it today. And if you have a machine learning project, please register today because today is the last date. After today, we will not be accepting any more registrations. So just putting the link in a minute. Islam, you can go ahead with the presenter today.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Isha, for this useful information. Okay, great. In today's InfoSec seminar, we are pleased to have Mina Alinejad to give us an interesting talk about exploring Microsoft security, compliance, and identity features. Mina has her bachelor's in software engineering, and she obtained her master's in Information Security Assurance Management from Concordia University of Edmonton in 2016. She started her Canadian work experience as SharePoint developer due to prior work experience. She decided to switch her focus to security and risk to align to her master's program and continued to obtain her CISA certification and started her journey into the IT security world as risk and advisory consultant at BDO Canada. And now she is information security specialist at Grand Thornton, Canada. She is responsible for risk management and GRC development. Thanks, Mina, for being with us today and sharing your experience with us. And for our guests from outside Concordia, without Concordia email addresses, please register on the following link to receive your attendance certificate. So please go ahead, Mina.
Thanks, Dr. Islam, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. Let me first share my screen. Yeah, so it always feels good to come back to where we started. And as Dr. Islam mentioned, I work for Grand Thornton, Canada, and my day-to-day work focusing more on GRC part, risk assessment, vendor security assessment, and framework compliance. But on the side note, I work with Microsoft products. So I thought maybe that for today, it will be interesting to talk about Microsoft security and compliance features and how we can leverage this product to secure our environment. So today I'm going to talk about security and compliance methodologies and models. And then we're going to talk about what security capabilities Microsoft is offering and what compliance capability Microsoft is going to offer. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about the learning path and certification, which you can go through to get your Microsoft certification. So as everyone knows, in today's world, data is not just being accessed between walls of our office anymore. And I mean, our colleagues working all over the place, and organization need to protect their data. And this brings us to overriding theme of any security solution for the zero trust methodology. This concept assumes absolutely everything is open and untrusted network, even your corporate network also under zero trust model, it's assumed is not safe and secure. And this model follows the logic of trust no one and verify everything. Because I mean, think about it, how much of your workforce is outside of your traditional corporate network, and you have employees working remotely, and recently for a few years also there's an increase of working outside of the corporate network. So that brings us to have this zero trust model, which makes us to verify explicitly and have the least privileged access to the required job, and then assume the breach. So these three principles of zero trust support the 6 different foundation pillars that provide end-to-end security solution. These are the 6 foundation pillars of zero trust. One's first layer is talking about the identity. So this is where you need to verify all identities and make sure that you have a strong authentication process. And for second pillar, you need to have the device, all your devices visible, and you need to see them on your network. I mean, this even goes to bring your own devices, and you should have visibility to all devices. And for the third pillar, it ties to your application as well, and you need to have application visibility also, what is connecting to your network, and verify those one as well. And for fourth pillar, you have network. You want to make sure you're segmenting your network and encrypting all the internal communication. And then next foundation is infrastructure. So you need to have a real-time threat protection and automatically block and flag different risks based on the severity level. And then finally, we have the last pillar, one of the fine lines of the defense, your data. Now we have layer of protecting your data, but we still need to make sure you are classifying and labeling and encrypting your data when it's in transit or at rest. So when we talk about all layers of protecting your data, that's where we have the methodology called defense on depth. The entire purpose behind defense and depth model is where we are actually leveraging a series of mechanisms to slow down advance of attack that is trying to get unauthorized access to your data. Our goal is to protect data in multiple layers. So in case if one of the layers is compromised, in the layer below will protect the attacked and will not make unauthorized access to your data eventually. So let's take a look at the layers. So first layer, we have physical security. In this layer, we are more focusing on how to secure physically. Like let's say for Microsoft Data Center, they have only authorized user, or like by swapping the badge, all these things considered as a physical layer security. And the next layer, we have identity and access, which is where we need to verify who is accessing and what they are trying to access, and check and grant their access based on required and access they want. And then we have the third layer, the perimeter layer. This is where the goal is to prevent any unwanted user or service from accessing your network. A lot of times your threat going to stop here and not going further. But we want to have alerts to set up on this layer so we can investigate further, and we can as we go to the next layer, networking layer, there is this is the layer when the attack is if the attack is on, we are going to make sure it's limited and it's not gonna spread over the rest of your services. And then we have compute. So this layer is more like we have regular patches and make sure the environment is upgraded with the required standard which we need to have secure. And then the next layer is application. So in this layer, we need to make sure our developers still do the application security to make sure data is secure. And then finally, we have data layer, which this layer we need to make sure those who have access to your data are sorting it in a proper way that will be protected. So as we described in previous slide, a defense in depth strategy uses a series of mechanisms to slow down the advance of an attack. All these different mechanisms, such as technologies, process, and trainings, all elements of cybersecurity, the goal is ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data, which is referred to CIA. So this model is used to think about the trade-offs when it comes to securing your data. This way, the way I want to think about this model is that to think of what, based on when it comes to these three, confidentiality and integrity and availability, you need to choose two between three. So let's say for your organization, confidentiality is really important. So you need to have your sensitive data, let's say encryption key and password, all these things you need to keep it as secret. So now you need to choose between integrity and availability. Do you want to have data available, or you can give up on some integrity to have availability and confidentiality? Nothing. It's more like trades off when it comes to securing your data. So far we looked at some different concepts and models that Microsoft using to help you to secure your data. Now let's talk about security capability of Microsoft solution. I categorize Microsoft security capability in three category. First is going to be Microsoft 365 Defender, and then we have 365 security management tools, and lastly we're going to talk about endpoint security with Microsoft Intune. So let's talk about Microsoft Defender. Microsoft Defender is integrated cross-domain threat detection and response solution. It provides coordinated and automatic defense across all your services. So if there is a threat, it's going to block it, and before that threat becomes an attack. And also, in order to reduce the signal fatigue, it's going to automatically normalize all these raw signals coming from different domains and different services, and then gonna analyze the data and correlates it to incidents, and it's going to provide the context to those signals so that your security team can understand the story of alert by reading the alerts and then getting the information from that. Defender can help you protect your identities, your endpoints, and your application, and your email and collaboration tools. And we're going to talk about all of this in few slides. Let's start with Defender for identity. This is actually, if you worked previously with Microsoft, this used to call Azure Advanced Threat Protection, or ATP, but now they changed it to Microsoft Defender for Identity. And the way Defender for Identity works is that it is using Azure Active Directory data to constantly scan your environment and look for those threats. And it's like Microsoft Defender for Identity is monitoring all the users' data and their sign-ins, their day-to-day activities, all the data related to users. It is going to monitor, and behind the scenes is going to build a baseline of normal activity for each user. And in a way which, let's say, if a user has and group doesn't have that baseline of normal activity, Microsoft Defender is going to trigger an alert and makes you to act on the required sorry, I lost the slide. Yeah, so it's gonna create a baseline of activity, normal activity, and anything out of this normal activity will make Defender to trigger alert to you to take an action on that. For example, let's say we have an employee, and this employee called James. He's always working from certain device, and then he's logging in from certain geographic location and accessing a corporate network. And also he accesses specific data on day-to-day basis. But one day when, if a Microsoft Defender notice that there is a different sign-in with from different device and different location, and this sign-in is trying to access different than normal activity for James, so it's going to trigger it as this is a something is not as normal behavior of the James, and it's going to trigger alert. So, and based on the level of the risk, it also eventually maybe it's gonna block James access. So in that case, maybe James access account is actually compromised. So Defender, by studying the each user's normal activity, can trigger the alerts to notify us about the possible threats and stop them to compromise the data. The next slides we have about Microsoft Defender for Office 365. So Microsoft Defender for Office 365 is for safeguarding our organization against malicious threats posed by email, message, or URLs, or also collaboration tools, including Microsoft Teams, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, and other Office clients product. So Microsoft Defender for Office 365 has the threat protection policies, so we can have our policies like anti-spam or safe links, and all these policies can be set up. And then based on these policies, we have reports which shows how Microsoft Defender for Office 365 is blocking the threats, and also how is overall the Defender for Office is working. And there is two other features: threat investigation and automated response capability. These two are depending on the plan which you have, could be included on your services. And then based on your organization need, you can have these features as well. Another great feature of Microsoft Defender is endpoint protection. The purpose of endpoint protection is to help organization protect its endpoints. With endpoint security, this allows you to secure your user's device like laptop or phones, or just anything which endpoint can be accessing to your network. So ultimately, Defender is going to protect you by collecting different sample of information from all different operating system, and compare all them that to their behavioral data, and collect and data from all these different endpoints, and then it's going to take those signals and turn them to the insights. Now, from this insight, Defender can detect malicious activities, and ultimately is going to provide you with recommendation to better protect your endpoint. The last part of Defender is cloud app security component. As more and more organizations moving to the cloud, there's a huge benefit like increasing availability and fault tolerance, and also flexibility for your organization. But however, you move to the cloud, only truly a way to leverage all these benefits is to ensure that your data is protected. Now, Microsoft Cloud App Security is what we call a Cloud Access Security Broker, or CASB. This is a SaaS software and software as a solution service, and it works as a SaaS level between the cloud user and the cloud provider. And this is going to give your organization insight to your services, and ultimately control on where your data is going, how it is traveling, and who uses it. The main purpose of Cloud Security Broker is to provide the rich visibility to your cloud services, control over the data, and also analyze the data, who and where has access. So basically, if you have shadow IT application, this also can give you the insight to that. And also, if you have sanction application, this the Microsoft Cloud App Security gives you visibility about if any of this application is accessing, and based on your setting, you can block or sanction the access to this shadow IT application as well. So now we talked about all different Microsoft Defender features. Let's talk about management tool capability inside Microsoft 365. So we know Defender is collecting and processing, and also preventing so many endpoints and emails and application, and all these things happens. So we need to have a portal to see this report. So that's why we have Microsoft 365 Defender portal, which is puts all this central. It actually has a central place to show the security teams and give the quick access for all the information Defender is collecting and how it detecting and protecting your environment against the attacks. And inside the Microsoft 365 Defender portal, we have another feature called Microsoft Secure Score. One of the tools which is provided by Defender portal is Microsoft Secure Score, and this is actually showing you your company's security posture, and it's actually how higher your score is, that better your protection is. So from a centralized dashboard in Microsoft 365 Defender portal, your organization can monitor and work on the security of their Microsoft identities, app, and devices. And thirdly, we have reports. These reports helps admins to start their general security reports and breach into the and if there is a data breach, so they can see all the reports and details of each incident happened, or like if they have any all the visibility to endpoint protection. And lastly, we have incident management. So as I mentioned, Microsoft Defender is collecting all the information from different services and domains. And then if there is incident management has all this information in a way which will provide a comprehensive view and in context of the attack. And incidents queue is a central location, lists all the incidents by their severity. Selecting an incident name gonna display a summary of the incident and provide the access tab to additional information. So let's talk about another security capability of Microsoft, which called Intune. We're gonna talk about what is Intune and what tools are available with Intune and how we can manage Endpoint Manager with Intune. Microsoft Intune is a cloud-based service that focuses on two concepts. One is MDM and the other mobile device management, and the other one is MAM, which is mobile application management. And with each feature, I'm going to explain how it works. For the MDM, mobile device management, so if you have all devices enrolled in Intune, let's say all the laptops or phones who they have access to your environment, then you're gonna see all these devices in your Intune, and you can manage them, and you have the complete inventory of all your devices. And also, if there is an update, you can just push out through the Intune to all of your devices. And also, you can see their health standard of the devices, and all this visibility is going to be possible by MDM through the Intunes. And then this also gives you the availability in case, let's say, if someone in your company, they have a corporate device and they jailbroken that device, and now you don't want your data be compromised. So MDM gives you the opportunity to immediately block to access from that jailbroken phone, and also immediately remove all the data from that device, so that will reduce the risk of data compromise. And then on the other hand, we have mobile application management, MAM, which means in this case, if you have your apps managed in Intune, then even if you don't have a device registered in Intune, let's say bring your own device, you will still have the control on the app and what level of data is getting accessed by who. So let's say if a user is trying to access through his personal device, one of the application which is managed through the Intune, you still can see what level of data they accessing, and even in case of their phone or device is lost, you still can control the corporate data through MAM. And you can remote wipe all the corporate data from the device to prevent any data loss. Inside Endpoint Security Node, you have the capability of looking at all of your different devices and seeing which device is compliant with the policies that you are set, and also how to remediate them to be more compliant to the policies. Also, you can see the different firewalls, antivirus, if you have your laptops there, and you can also manage all those different segments. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint can also integrate with Intune, and then they both can protect your environment once they are integrated together. So now we talked about Defender and security part of the capability of Microsoft. Now let's talk about the compliance capability of the Microsoft. So compliance in Microsoft is in multiple different services and features. We have compliance management capability in Microsoft, we have governance capability, and we have insider risk, and then we have e-discovery and audit capability. And lastly, we have resource governance capability in Microsoft Azure. One of the main compliance features of Microsoft is something called Service Trust Portal. Service Trust Portal is actually a public site which is publishing audit reports and all the other compliance related information associated with Microsoft cloud services. So Service Trust Portal make users to be able to download any reports and produced by even external auditors like SOC reports for Microsoft or other related insights from the Microsoft authored white papers, which are they providing detail of how Microsoft Cloud Services protecting your data. So in Service Trust Portal, everyone publicly can access Microsoft reports, which can be audit reports or compliance report, and they can see how Microsoft is securing their cloud services, and also they can see the white papers for each of the service provided by Microsoft. Within the Service Trust Portal, we have another great tool called Microsoft Compliance Center. So as mentioned earlier in the previous slide, I mentioned Service Trust Portal is publicly available, but Compliance Center actually needs you to be logged in as a admin or the similar level of the access to get access to the Compliance Center. And while this compliance center is going to give you the overall how your organization is performing against compliance and standards that you are set them in the place. And as a manager, you're going to have access to Compliance Manager, which will help you easily set up your compliance and standard, whether that means you are taking inventory of all of your data protection risk, or if you need to implement any type of controls. This is going to be your one-stop shop to help you to keep update with different regulation and different audit standards. The Compliance Manager will help you reduce the overall risk, and inside which you have the dashboards with the number of the predefined assessment based on your region and your industry. So that way your admin can customize assessment for each standard and each category of the compliance which they want, and then Microsoft is going to give you your score and also recommendation how you can make your score better to achieve to that compliance which you set up. So the last slide, I'm going to talk about the resource and learning paths for the certification. All the information which today I talked about are accessible by Microsoft resources like Trust Center or Learning Paths, and also Compliance Management Preview Program. And some of these ones actually are part of the certification which are provided by Microsoft. Let's say the AZ 900 Azure Fundamental or CS 900. They are the certification which you can go through the learning path and all get all this information, and then also for some of them you can attend to their instructor based courses, and then you go to the learning path and read all the information, and also you can obtain your certification through the Microsoft learning path. So this brings us to the last slide. I hope you learned some information from this presentation, and if you have any question, please.
Thank you, Mina, so much for your interesting talk. So thank you.
Thank you.
So let's open it up for questions. Please go ahead if you have questions. Yes, Sean, please go ahead.
And we were talking a little bit earlier. Whoops. Yeah, I'm good here. We were talking a little bit earlier about your journey as an information security professional and into working for Grant Thornton. Perhaps you could tell our audience a little bit more about that, how you went from your master's degree to where you are now.
Sure. It's actually interesting journey for me because my bachelor was in software engineering, and then I decided to switch to security. That's why I started with Concordia, and I was in assurance field. So it was more focused on risk and also financial part of it and auditing part. So once I finished my master, I wanted to just start a job, and it wasn't that easy to start to the security field. That's why I started with my SharePoint developer experience, and then I started to work as a SharePoint developer. But then during the time which I was working, I started to obtain my CISA certification, which was were aligned well with our master degree. And then I started applying for security jobs as well. And then eventually I started my security job in BDO Canada as a risk and advisory, which this role was more focusing on SOC reports and general audit controls, which they were offering for financial statement controls. And also SOC 2 type 2 reports was more focus of the risk and advisory team. And then after that, I started to my Grant Thornton job as information security specialist, but my more focus is in our GRC, which is more like security vendor assurance, and then frameworks. Let's say we have ISO 20017 and NIST framework, and we are trying to map our controls to these frameworks. So that's one part of my job. And also I'm working with Microsoft, and we have now Microsoft Defender, CASB in place. All this product also I'm working as my day-to-day security job.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Yes, Angie, please go ahead.
Hi, Mina. Thank you so much for the very enlightening presentation. I particularly like the idea of zero trust. I have a question. I'm not sure whether this is for you or this is just for the entire group, because anybody can chime in. The concept of zero trust is quite interesting. I know a few years back we used to say trust but verify, but today we're saying don't trust at all. And when I look at that, I'm just wondering, where do we need to start thinking about zero trust? Is it every element that we're dealing with, or is it at a certain level? Because when I say this, I think about federated identity. We know about federated identity is based on trust. So where does it start when we start thinking about zero trust? Because if I'm going to get an identity provider, that means there need to be some trust with that identity provider. But then when we start bringing in the concept of zero trust, are we saying that we should not trust identity provider anymore? And how do we verify them when they provide us with that service?
Sure. So yeah, this is actually zero trust is very new, not very, but it's a new concept. It's sorry, I guess my voice is reflecting. So yeah, zero trust is more like it's not not trusting, but it's more talking about we need to verify more strictly compared to other methodologies. So what this means, we have our trusted users, but we need to verify in multiple ways. Let's say if we have user who has password as a first layer of their information, we need to verify them in another way. Let's say multi-factor MFA, or like we need to have conditional access to see if this user is actually the user who is identifying as a user is the real user or not. So zero trust is basically trusting the multiple factors to identify the real users who trying to access. At the same time, we are layering through the zero trust. So then we have not only one layer. If there is any compromise in one layer, so it's gonna another layer will not gonna trust only one layer. So we have multiple layer with together working together to have that trust built.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually helped indeed.
We have one more question from Shihab. So he's asking how getting the CISA certification assisted you for processing in your career.
Yeah, it's actually helped me a lot because, as I mentioned, I was working in a different domain. I was a developer, and obtaining CISA helped me to like go back to what we learned in Concordia, and also, to in our environment and in our career, having certification validates what knowledge and what skills you have. So it's actually helped me a lot with my journey to switch to cybersecurity field, and also give me the knowledge and skills required to start the job. And right now, actually, I'm working on my series examination. Hopefully, I'll clear it soon. But yeah, it's always good to have this certification as for the validation of your knowledge and skill.
Great. Any more questions? Yes, Angie, go ahead, please.
This is not more. This is actually not a question per se. This is more of a comment to add to what Mina just said. Because when you have a certification, you have the obligation to stay up to date with what is happening in the industry. And with that requirement to maintain your certification, I think you keep learning. So usually having that certification means that you don't just go to sleep and think that everything is good. Because the field that we are in is the field that evolves all the time and very rapidly. So I think it's actually very helpful for us in the field to keep that certification.
Yes, that's totally. I'm totally agreed with that. And with certification, it always needs you to be updated. Like now, CRISC also changing, CISA, all of them keep changing, and to be obtained that certification, you need to update your knowledge as well, which makes you to be updated on your field.
Yeah, and we have a question from Maninder. Okay, so let me thank Kim Krushing from 34. Thanks for joining us, Kim. We hope to see you again next month. And please go ahead, Maninder from Fortinet.
Yeah. Thanks, Aslam.
Bye.
And thanks, Mina, for wonderful session for today. It's always great, when someone is talking about network security. So I just want to see from your perspective, what are the current challenges you are seeing in network security, and which you are still trying to overcome, in the coming months, years, because ZTN is one thing which is very much adaptive, being adaptive by many organizations. MFA, what other challenges you see, from customers' point of view, that they are still vulnerable, they are still open?
Yeah, actually, this is really good question, because as far as security grows, hackers and attackers also growing. So all these things which we are talking about, there is a bypass for them. Let's say MFA. You mentioned about managed MFA, which is the second layer of authentication. But recently, there is always ways to like bypass the MFA. So this happens more often, and one of the challenge for Microsoft is actually to avoid this bypassing MFA, because we are trusting on second layer MFA, but if it's going to be bypassed by attacker by stealing session, or like having the phone steal to pretend that the second authentication MFA is taken by the attacker, then the whole multi-factor authentication will be under question. So all these challenges all there, but then you need to find a way to have multiple layer of the security. And speaking of the challenge, I would say it's different networks have different challenges, but one of the things which I feel like is the point of the focus for multiple companies is the shadow IT, which I talked about it, and how Microsoft Defender for cloud is gonna help. So CASB is like it's gonna give you visibility, because most of the time our employees, they gather information and they upload in different other cloud services. Let's say we have Dropbox, we have Google Cloud. So it's not easy to control where is the data eventually being uploaded. But if we have some tools like CASB, that is gonna give you visibility about all this shadow ITs and where eventually this data is gonna be stored. So it's good to know, and that gives you the control over all the authorized application and sanction application. So I would say maybe one of the challenge would be this implementing and deploying CASB in a way which helps to users to do their day-to-day works, but as long as it's also aligned with corporate policies and standard.
Well, thank you, Mina. And what are your thoughts about SAML authentication, which is again being highly adaptive? Many organizations are adapting SAML authentication versus going with pure MFA.
That's also one of the things which has benefits and pros and cons. But yeah, that's true. We have now single sign-in as well, also, which is like a way of the protecting. But again, that also brings the implementation, how you can integrate that feature. That also has challenge, but it's one of the ways to secure your authentication methods.
Well, that's all I have, Mina. I really appreciate your session today. It's very informative, and thanks to Aslam, Sean, and faculty of Concordia University for arranging such a great info sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Maninder. Thank you. Any more questions? Any more questions?
I'll jump back in here again.
Okay.
Mina, another interesting thing that we were talking about just before the start of this InfoSec seminar is that you're working for a law firm.
Mhm.
What challenges with threats, and the types of threats have you been facing since the pandemic?
Yes, as I mentioned, pandemic also affected a lot, but like being in financial and accounting and law firm has this own challenges. Let's say for financial team, they are always the main focus of the attack because they have access to the confidential info and also financial statement, which they have high value. And the challenge for us has always been there because there is new phishing attacks and features are always growing. So it's always one thing is like how to make sure our employees, they have the required awareness and training, how to be trained for the detecting the phishing attacks and phishing emails. That's one of the things which we really focus on that. And also having the rule-based training and also phishing also is very useful and helped us a lot because depending on your area of work, you're going to have a specific attack coming to you. Let's say working in financial and team, you're gonna have someone pretending it's your client, but they are not actually, but they're gonna ask you to change their banking information. And if you're not well trained to recognize the attacker or phishing spam, so you might be like get in the trap and give the financial information, and this is not gonna end up there because eventually it's gonna be a bigger loss for your company financially and also reputation wise.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Okay.
I can jump in.
Yes, please go ahead,
That's okay.
Atelier.
Yeah, I'm just want to say thank you, Mina, for your presentation. I was actually hoping that Dr. Sean will make it back from his class. He's in the classroom, unfortunately, at this moment. So, but anyway, it was very nice presentation, very informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was very nice to meet you, Dr. Sean.
Atelier, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mina, for your session. So, like, I wanted to ask, what challenges do you face with people bringing their own devices to the office? Like, you spoke about Microsoft Defender for endpoints. So, how do people secure? Like, how do you secure people's devices like that? Bring their own, like, apart from giving them office devices, like bringing their own personal devices. How do you secure those devices?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually one of the challenges. Always bring your own device. It's one of the challenges because it brings the responsibility and risk for the devices as well. But at the same point, your user needs to access the outside of the work, and then you need to provide them. But one of the way which I mentioned also is about the app security, which Microsoft Defender for MAM, which was like talking about app security. So you can have Intunes, you can have your application. Let's say we have Office 365 app, including email and OneDrive. So you can register these apps in Intune, and then based on that, users, whenever they accessing this application, Intune is gonna monitor how they are accessing and what level they have accessing, and also gonna authorize their access. So even though user's device is not registered in Intune, but then MAM is gonna part of the Intune is gonna protect the apps which are the important and they are registered to Intune. So I would say for that purpose, we will have our data and main application, let's say email or OneDrive is registered as an app in Intune. So we have visibility and control for the device which they are not registered and they are not our device inventory.
All right, thank you. Yes, it did.
Okay, great. So thanks so much, Mina, for this interesting talk, and thank you all for being with us today. Again, for people who joined us from outside Concordia, please register on this link to get your attendance certificate. And we hope to see you all again in our next InfoSec seminar on December 8th. The speaker is Michael Spelling, and he will talk about why not to put in your resume, and this will be security-related talk. Thank you so much. See you next month.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Sergey, Sean, Mina, Dr. Aslam. Thank you all.
Thank you
so much for joining us, Mina. And thank you, everyone, for coming and attending.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Dr. Sergey.